he took Jalen Samuels right before me. This bust prediction is going to be tough because I'm about to call out the guy that was number 2 on my bold predictions for 2018, James Conner. I challenge anybody to find anybody in the fantasy football industry that wrote bigger things and bigger predictions about James Conner and Jalen Samuels together than I did. He was my number 2 bold prediction way back before the Le'Veon Bell holdout was thought to even be close to a possibility. So it's hard for me to call bust here or call caution because I love James Conner, but fantasy football is all about value, risk versus reward. You can like a guy a ton as an underdog one year, and then you can not like his inflated value that is full of risk the next year. That's fantasy football, and you have to be able to do that and weigh those things out. James Conner doesn't have a track record of producing year after year. I'm not saying Jalen Samuels does, but to draft Conner as a top 6 to 10 overall player, which is where his value is currently falling, you're talking about a player that shouldn't have a whole lot of red flags. He has Jalen Samuels behind him, who is arguably as good, in my opinion, better. And most fantasy football owners will not know this information. So if you take anything away, take this away. Ed Faulkner is now the running backs coach in Pittsburgh. And guess who was his secret weapon, his weapon of choice at NC State? Jalen Samuels, where Jalen Samuels was a 200-plus receiving running back. You can say that James Conner is better. I'm not going to argue even that. I like Samuels a little bit more. They're both talented. I had them as my bold prediction number 2 overall last year. So you can't really argue with me that you like these guys better.
I don't know a lot about fantasy football. I know everything about fantasy football. Woo! You know?
It's all about value. Number 6 to 10 overall, that is a risky place to draft James Conner. Injury history mixed with all of this, there are a lot of red flags for a player that you're making your first drafted player. The real value here is in drafting Jalen Samuels probably all by himself, because then you have a much lower cost with a guy that I firmly believe will be a big part of this offense in week 1. If that buzz starts to build, you'll see James Conner's value diminish quite a bit. And we might be talking about a whole different thing in August if that ends up happening. Now, if they back James Conner, the team, and they say they're going to start him, run him out there as a starter, yes, you have yourself a top 5-ish running back to start the year. But I don't know that he'll stay healthy. He's never had a full workload and stayed healthy before. And I know that some players, rookies especially, jump right into the league and we trust them that they'll be healthy and you can't predict injury in a lot of cases. But I think it's a lot to ask a guy to play 16 games with the kind of workload that Pittsburgh's going to shovel down this guy's throat when he just proved he couldn't handle it and broke down a little bit last year. Now, I'm not saying that Jalen Samuels has some greater dynasty value. He may. And I'm not saying James Conner wouldn't be an attractive pick in the 2nd or 3rd round. But right now, Jalen Samuels is in the same position James Conner was in last year. And I might be in 2020 talking about a player that's behind Jalen Samuels and telling you not to draft Jalen Samuels. That's the nature of this game. You have to be ever-changing. You have to adjust and adapt. You're going to say, what if I pair them together? Yes. Then you have a safe combo and probably a guaranteed top 5 to 10 running back. But the problem is going to be, this will be the one duo that you don't see paired up as much as you might expect walking out of a draft. I think that the common theme for James Conner owners in 2019 is going to be, oh, he took Jalen Samuels right before me. Because he's got standalone value. He's not just a handcuff or a backup. People are going to be taking Jalen Samuels before you're probably, as a James Conner owner, finished filling out your whole starting lineup and drafting your starters. So you're probably going to wait, and then someone's going to snag them way too early because they're going to see the upside and kind of feel like, hey, this is the next James Conner right here. I'm staying away from James Conner at his 6 to 10 overall value right now. I recommend that everybody else, if you end up taking James Conner, you absolutely do what you got to do, whether it's moving a draft pick up and still getting the guys that you need where you want to get them, but you move another pick all the way up by getting rid of some depth down the way and ensuring that you get Samuels, or you don't take Conner and you go with a safer option in a range that has a ton of other alternatives that are safer. If you walk out of 2019 fantasy football drafts with James Conner and you don't have Jalen Samuels, I believe you're going to be regretting your decision by midseason or even week 10. He might go nuts in week 1. That won't change my opinion. I loved his situation last year. That's why he was my number 2 bold prediction overall. But guess who's on my bold prediction list this year? Jalen Samuels.
Wow.
And I'm giving you that information for free. That's one of the bold predictions on the site. The most sought after feature on sleeperu.com. Get some more 2019 bold predictions over at sleeperu.com, where we have, I believe, 4 or 5 already up for 2019. And there's some big ones. There's some deep ones, and there's some ones that are going to shock you. Out of all the players in the first round in 2019, the 2 biggest risks are Todd Gurley and James Conner. I know I'm going to take a lot of heat for this. I know there are going to be a lot of negative comments, people that own James Conner, but I got good news for you. If you're in a dynasty league, you can trade him.
You are offer sex. You are trade offer sex.
You can trade him because his value is high right now. Move into a lateral player that has equal value, and even if Conner works out, you're not going to be mad because you're trading for a player that safely has the same kind of value. We'll see what happens if some Jalen Samuels buzz kind of builds as we head toward June, July, and August. We might be talking about entirely different values for James Conner if there isn't a huge backing for him to start and to get full-time carries by this coaching staff. With Ed Faulkner as the running backs coach in Pittsburgh, he's going to want to use the secret weapon he had at NC State, the guy he knows very well, the guy that produced at the end of the year and played just as well as James Conner, and that's Jalen Samuels.
Sleep. You. Learn about it. Woo!